There is a face that almost everyone on Earth would recognize. Blue and gold. Calm. Eternal. It has been printed on stamps, on textbook covers, on posters in classrooms in every country on the planet. And for 100 years, we have all looked at it and called it Tutankhamun. The problem is that the mask does not entirely agree. Because the golden mask of Tutankhamun is not one object, it is at least two. The face and the rest of the mask are made from different gold, joined along a line you can actually find if you know where to look. There are holes in the ears that someone deliberately covered over, and on the shoulder, underneath the name of the boy king, there is another name, scratched out, written over. Somebody erased the original owner of the most famous face in history, and the mask has been quietly carrying that evidence for more than 3,300 years. Let's go back to the beginning. In November of 1922, Howard Carter found a step cut into the rubble of the Valley of the Kings. Behind it was a sealed doorway, and behind that was the almost intact tomb of a pharaoh nobody had thought much about. It took Carter years to work through the outer chambers. It was not until the autumn of 1925 that he finally lifted the lid of the innermost coffin and came face to face with the mask. It was not in good shape. The embalmers had poured huge quantities of black anointing resin over the mummy, and over 3,000 years that resin had hardened into something like tar. The mask was cemented to the body. Carter's team had to use heated knives and a great deal of patience to free it, and the gold came away scorched and stained. Then it was cleaned, photographed, admired, and sent to Cairo, where it became the single most recognizable object from the ancient world. And there it sat, behind glass, studied but rarely touched. That changed in August of 2014. During routine cleaning in the Egyptian Museum, the mask's long braided beard came loose. What happened next has become slightly infamous. Rather than call in conservators, museum staff reattached it in a hurry using a hard, quick-setting epoxy, and then tried to scrape away the excess glue that had squeezed out around the chin. The scraping left visible scratches on the gold. The damage forced Egypt's hand. In 2015, a joint German and Egyptian conservation team took the mask apart, removed the epoxy, and reattached the beard properly using beeswax, which is what the ancient craftsmen themselves had used. And because the mask was finally out of its case and in a laboratory, the team did something that had almost never been done properly. They examined it, closely, under magnification, under raking light, with imaging equipment and chemical analysis of the metal itself. That is when the mask started giving up its secrets. Here is the first one. The gold is not the same everywhere. Analysis of the metal shows that the face and the ears are made from a noticeably paler, lower purity gold alloy in the region of 18 karat, while the headdress, the shoulders, and the back of the mask are made from a richer alloy of roughly 22 karat. Under normal museum lighting you barely notice, but it is there. Two different batches of gold, two slightly different colors. And there is a join. A visible seam runs around the face, following the line where the face meets the headdress, and continuing behind the ears. Ancient Egyptian goldsmiths did work in sections and join them, so on its own this proves nothing. But combined with the change in alloy, it means the face of the mask and the body of the mask were, at the very least, made at different moments, from different material, quite possibly by different hands. Then there are the ears. The mask has pierced earlobes. Neat, deliberate holes, drilled to take earrings. That in itself is unusual, because in Egyptian royal art of this period, pierced ears are overwhelmingly shown on women and on children. Adult male pharaohs are almost never depicted that way. Tutankhamun died at around 18 or 19 years old, and this was a mask made for eternity, presenting him as a fully divine adult king. And here is the detail that makes it stranger. When Carter found the mask, those ear holes were covered. Small discs of gold foil had been placed over them, hiding them from view. Somebody wanted the piercings gone. Now we get to the part that turned an art historical curiosity into a genuine argument. On the mask, the king's names are written inside cartouches, the oval rings that enclose a royal name. And in 2015, the British Egyptologist Nicholas Reeves examined those cartouches at close range and reported something remarkable. Under the throne name of Tutankhamun Nebkheperure, he could make out traces of an earlier inscription that had been cut away and overwritten, what is technically called a palimpsest, old text, imperfectly erased, showing through the new. And the ghost underneath, according to Reeves, reads, Ankheperure, beloved of Neferkheperure. Neferkheperure is Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh, Tutankhamun's father, almost certainly. And Ankheperure is the throne name of a mysterious ruler called Neferuaten, who reigned in the strange, unstable years between Akhenaten's death and Tutankhamun's accession, and who a large number of Egyptologists believe was a woman, quite possibly Nefertiti herself. So Reeves put the pieces together into a single claim. The mask was not made for Tutankhamun. It was made for his predecessor, a female pharaoh. When she was buried, or perhaps when her burial goods were seized and repurposed, the original face was removed and replaced with a new face of Tutankhamun. The names were recut. The ear piercings, which belonged to the original owner, were plugged with gold foil, and the boy king went into eternity wearing somebody else's mask. If that is true, it reframes everything. It would mean the most famous artifact of ancient Egypt is a hand-me-down. It would mean Tutankhamun's spectacular burial was assembled in a hurry from another ruler's funerary equipment, which fits uncomfortably well with the fact that his tomb is small, oddly shaped, and looks a lot like it was never meant for a king at all. But you should know that this is contested, and seriously so. Plenty of Egyptologists are not convinced. Composite construction and mixed alloys were normal in Egyptian metalwork. The gold in the face may simply have been chosen deliberately for its paler tone, to make the skin read differently from the headdress. Pierced ears do turn up on some male royal images, particularly for kings shown young, and the reading of the erased cartouche is disputed. Other scholars examining the same marks have proposed different reconstructions, and traces of worn, recut inscription on a 3,000-year-old surface are exactly the kind of evidence where careful people can look at the same scratches and see different things. What almost nobody disputes is the physical fact underneath the argument. The mask is layered. It was assembled from parts, in more than one stage, out of more than one gold, and its inscriptions were altered after they were first cut. Something was changed. The disagreement is only about what and for whom. And that is what makes this object so quietly unsettling. We tend to treat the mask as a portrait, a window onto a real teenage boy who died 3,000 years ago, but it may be less a portrait than a document, a record of a dynasty in crisis, scrambling to bury a young king it had not expected to bury, reaching for whatever gold was closest, cutting away one name and stamping another over the top. The most famous face in the world, and it might not be the first face this mask ever wore. We are still learning to read it. Every new imaging technique gets a little closer to the layers we cannot see, and every few years someone looks again and finds something the last person missed. 3,300 years, and the mask still has not finished talking. If you want more stories where the artifact contradicts the textbook, subscribe. There are a lot of them.